Who or What is the Council of 33? By Rhoda Wilson. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we are looking at the architecture of what's described as a global shadow establishment. You know, if you've ever found yourself wondering about those secretive hierarchies that supposedly run the world from behind closed doors, well, we're unpacking a really fascinating web of historical claims, esoteric philosophies, and whistleblower accounts straight from this source. This analysis takes us directly into the blueprint of that hidden power structure. We're going to explore exactly how this intricate chain of command is built, who supposedly pulls the strings, and the astonishing philosophies that drive their pursuit of ultimate control. According to the author's breakdown of Gary Wayne's research, you have to imagine a rigidly organized 5-level pyramid of power. Right at the base, number 1, you've got Freemasonry. Step up 1 level to number 2, and you enter the Illuminati. Above them sits the highly exclusive Committee of 300. Then, power concentrates even further into 2 deeply esoteric groups, the Councils of 13 and 33. And finally, sitting at the absolute apex, the 13 families. The source stresses that this isn't just some loose network of powerful people. It's presented as a very strict chain of command, where the lower levels exist entirely to serve the agendas of the levels above them. So what binds a structure this massive together? You need a unifying belief system to keep a hierarchy like that marching in lockstep, right? Well, the author outlines that the foundational ideology here is Gnosticism. To wrap our heads around this, the text takes us all the way back to the original sin in the Garden of Eden. The premise is that when the serpent tempted Eve, the ultimate promise was that their eyes would be opened and they would become like God. In this framework, Gnosticism is defined by the absolute requirement to attain secret, hidden, or mysterious knowledge. You basically have to acquire this knowledge to move to a higher spiritual level, or, in their ultimate pursuit, to become a god yourself. Think about how mainstream monotheistic religions operate for a second, and you'll quickly see the philosophical clash the article highlights here. In traditional Christianity and Judaism, salvation is graciously given. It's a gift. It isn't something you can just buy, and it definitely doesn't require climbing a ladder of highly classified secret teachings. But Gnosticism? It operates on the exact opposite principle. The text contrasts this by showing that in Gnosticism, salvation and ascension are strictly transactional. They absolutely must be earned through the acquisition of that hidden knowledge, or gnosis. And the sheer scale of this is kind of staggering. Quoting Gary Wayne, the text explains that Gnosticism isn't just one isolated, obscure little cult. No, it's essentially a vast, unified, global mysticism. It's an enormous umbrella that successfully weaves together ancient esoteric traditions from India, Persia, Egypt, Babylon, Greece, Rome, and even the Druids into one single overarching philosophy. It's like a giant puzzle where all these different traditions, despite their differing outward appearances, are fundamentally connected beneath the surface by that core requirement of attaining secret knowledge. Now, imagine believing that your DNA literally gives you the divine right to own the planet. That is the chilling justification for this global control, an ideology known as Rex Deus, which translates to King God. To justify their control, the text notes that the highest echelons, specifically those 13 families at the very top of our pyramid, use this Rex Deus ideology to indoctrinate their followers. They believe they descend from a very specific divine bloodline. Because of this, they're convinced they alone have been sufficiently illuminated to actually ascend into godhood, giving them the absolute mandate to rule the world. Moving back down the pyramid a bit, let's look at the Illuminati. Now, the mainstream narrative may tell you this group went extinct long ago, right? Well, the claims relayed by the author paint a very different picture. Think of a high-stakes spy thriller, because the idea is that they didn't disappear at all. They infiltrated. We're talking about major institutions like the Council on Foreign Relations, Skull and Bones at Yale, and even the halls of the British Parliament. By quietly embedding themselves into these crucial entities, the suggestion is that they seamlessly steer global policy from the shadows. You might be surprised to hear just how far back and how high up the warnings about this group actually go. The source references historical assertions from major figures, including Winston Churchill. Yeah, Churchill himself. The text claims he actually believed the Illuminati were entirely responsible for authoring Marxism and orchestrating the communist revolution. And why would they do that? Simply as a tool to destabilize nations and bring about a new world order. It's a pretty heavy assertion to digest, showing that these theories have been circulating at the highest levels of government for a century. So, how does this control operate mechanically? The text further explores this through William Guy Carr's concept of the World Revolutionary Movement, or WRM. Imagine a global game of chess, where humanity itself is the board. The suggestion is that powerful billionaires manipulate systems like communism to essentially overthrow Christian democracy. Their ultimate goal? To completely dismantle sovereign national governments and establish a totalitarian one-world government. It frames these movements not as grassroots uprisings of the people, but as carefully engineered systems of control funded by the elite. If you thought the Illuminati were the ones pulling the strings, the source describes them more like middle management. Above them, we have the Committee of 300, made up of illuminated Freemasons. But breaking through that ceiling reveals an elite management layer that leads directly into the incredibly exclusive Council of 33 and Council of 13. To even reach the Committee of 300, an individual supposedly has to pass through all the degrees of Freemasonry and the Illuminati, meaning those groups, despite their immense influence, are ultimately just taking direct orders from these supreme, hidden councils. And here is where the hierarchy takes a truly bizarre and esoteric turn. Relying on John Michael Greer's encyclopedia, the author notes that the Council of 13 is also known as the Great Druid Council. Yes, staffed by 13 great druids, whose specific function is to act as the private priesthood for the Rothschild family. Just think about the wild juxtaposition of that for a second. You have a family widely synonymous with modern international banking, employing a private priesthood steeped deeply in ancient Celtic pagan mysticism. It adds this profoundly spiritual layer to the whole structure. To get a rare glimpse behind that curtain, the explainer highlights a fascinating testimony from 1978. A man named John Todd, reportedly a former member, gave a riveting account claiming firsthand knowledge of this structure. He stated definitively that the Council of 13 takes its orders strictly from the Rothschild Tribunal and absolutely nobody else. He also detailed that the Council of 33, which is comprised of the 33 highest-ranking Masons in the entire world, serves directly beneath them. His inside account perfectly mirrors that rigid, tiered pyramid we've been uncovering today. Now, as you can probably guess, investigating organizations that thrive on absolute secrecy is incredibly murky. The author points out some totally valid inconsistencies in the various whistleblower accounts here. For example, Todd mentions a Council of 500, but other prominent researchers extensively document a Committee of 300 that sounds almost identical. So it begs the question, are they actually the exact same entity that simply shrank over time or evolved its name? Tracking precisely which specific committee is issuing the marching orders on any given day is a massively difficult puzzle. Finally, we reach the absolute summit of this complex pyramid, the 13 families. According to the source, everything we've discussed so far exists solely to serve them. From the grassroots levels of Freemasonry, up through the corporate power of the Committee of 300, and all the way through those occult priesthoods. It is all one massive apparatus. Driven by their Rex Deus ideology, they deeply believe their bloodline grants them divine right over humanity. Their ultimate, unwavering goal is to push the globe toward a one-world government. It definitely leaves you with a profound question. Just how much of our history was actually written by the invisible hands of this hierarchy? Thank you for listening to another session of the Notebook LM News Series. You can find the full archive of all my podcasts at notebooklm.news.